Hello friends, Sherry here, and today I'm very excited to go through this process with you. Several weeks ago I saw a card on Christina Werner's YouTube channel that I just loved. She had masked off, obviously a much smaller scale, a card and stamped all these botanical images around the edge, and ever since I saw that video I've been obsessed with that and thinking about it and wanting to do it on a much larger scale. On a layout. So what I've done, I've already trimmed this down, my white cardstock, which in hindsight I should have just left it so that I could just lay this on top of it. But anyway, this is my favorite basil orange peel white cardstock, trimmed down ½ inch on each side, and this is going to be my mask. I just took a piece of cardstock and put it on my silhouette and made a big old circle. And so what I'm going to do now, since I have already trimmed that down, I'm going to just tape this into place. So as I start to do my stamping, this will not shift around. And I'm so excited about this. Sometimes I see things on YouTube and go, oh, I want to do that, and then don't do it, but I am going to tackle this today. So here we go. I know it's probably really hard to see because it's white on white, but I did use a different cardstock so that there would be a little bit of contrast, and plus I used a cardstock that I don't really care about, obviously, to make my mask. So I'm just going to put all this down. This is boring, I'm sure, watching me tape this down. Okay, I've got to run and fix dinner for the kids, and I'll be back. I'm so excited to start the process. Okay, so here is my general concept. I'm taking some photos from Valentine's Day. These are roses that my husband bought for my daughter, and Valentine's Day morning, what you can't see here, we had powdered donuts, and they got devoured, obviously, and my daughter had a friend spend the night, so I just had a cute little picture of them enjoying their donuts and milk. And I do have a son, by the way, but he wasn't up for coming down for sweet little Valentine's. He grabbed his donuts and went back to his room. So anyway, since it's a Valentine's layout, I'll just go ahead and work with what I have. But my concept is to pull out all these colors, and maybe a few more, because I love the teal, of course, in there. But I pulled out all my, not all, but a few of my botanical type stamps, flowers, leaves, and so forth. And I'm going to mix in some hearts too, just because it's Valentine's Day. And I'm going to pull out the colors and start stamping. So I will probably speed up the process quite a bit during the stamping so that you do not have to take the time to watch me stamp each one. Okay, here we go. What I did, I pulled out all types of botanical stamps, whether they were ferns, leaves, florals, and I wanted to add some hearts too, because this particular layout is actually from Valentine's Day. So as you can see, I pulled out all kinds of stamp pads and my distress inks, and I was just going for colors that I liked that worked with the flowers. So the biggest key to this design concept is you really have to make sure when you're stamping that you get get as much pattern as you can up against that line, so that when you pull off the mask you can see a definite circle. Because if you left it too open, which I'm sure it would still be beautiful, but it just wouldn't have the impact that it does when you stamp around the whole image and make sure it's all filled in pretty well. How I approach this process, um, I like to kind of work in odd numbers, and so I just kind of start treating it almost like a clock. I just kind of work my way around the circle. Some of the images I actually colored with the distress markers because it had florals and leaves, or I wanted a couple of shade variations of pinks or so, you know. So obviously the sky is the limit when it comes to which type of inks you want to use. It's funny, I have so many ink pads. I mean, tons of ink pads, but I've discovered that I really don't have that many pigment type ink pads. So you'll see I eventually pull out my Prima chalk edgers because they're nice and juicy. And I wanted, even though I did a variety of types of inks, I still think it looks really beautiful because then it even looks a little more, it gives a little more dimension and mixes it up a little bit so that it doesn't, if you use the same exact type of ink, I think it would, although it would still be pretty, it would just be a little more flat, I think. So in hindsight, I guess I'm glad I didn't have that many pigment inks because it was kind of fun to mix it up and use a variety. So I have this sped up 4 times, but obviously this was the longest part of the process. I think this section of the video took 23 minutes, but a lot of that is because kind of playing around, deciding exactly which colors I want to use, which stamps I want to use. And but I did want you to see the whole process and how this all comes together. Again, I do spend a lot of time when I have time to relax. I really enjoy watching YouTube videos, and it's amazing to me how much I've learned and also how much I've purchased since watching various YouTubers. And Christina happens to be one of my favorites. Even though I'm not a card maker, I was laughing. I belong to the Scrap Gals Facebook forum group, and Tracy Claiborne, when she heard that I didn't do cards, she was like, well then why do you watch her videos? But I told her I learned so many fun techniques, and she introduces me to so many products that maybe aren't typical for scrapbookers that are a lot more geared towards card makers. The funny thing is, in all of my YouTube shopping, I knew I had purchased masking paper, and literally I spent 45 minutes last night in my scrapbook room, which my scrapbook room is very organized, but I spent 45 minutes looking for the masking paper, and I finally was just like, forget it, I'll cut a mask on my silhouette. And then as soon as I started flipping through for all the stamps, lo and behold, I found my masking paper in with my stamps, which makes total sense. But the funny thing was, in my mind, I had purchased 8.5 by 11 sheets, and I was going to somehow piece that together and make it work. And my sheets are nowhere near that big. It was just so funny. I was like, oh my gosh, I spent all this time searching for something that I didn't even have the right size anyway. But obviously, I think this approach worked pretty well since it's such a simple design, a simple circle. Okay, back to the design. You can see it's all really starting to come together now, and this is where I really started getting excited because, as I said, I've been thinking about this layout for several weeks, and I've just kind of been waiting for the right moment, and the mojo finally hit yesterday. And when I saw those pictures, I was like, yeah, it's time to do it. So here I am getting ready to take off the mask. This was the most exciting thing to me. It's like reveal day. There it is. I just love it. And now I'm trying to decide which paper I want to use.
I end up with the yellow Amy Tangerine. And here, now I'm just matting the floral photo. And as you can see over in the chipboard frame, I ended up I feel bad, I cropped out one of my daughter's best friends, but I will obviously still give her the photo of the two of them together. But for some reason it was just throwing off the photos. I think it was because her shirt was black and blue and it was just messing up the color scheme. So I will make sure I keep that photo of her, but it just didn't make it to the layout. I love you, Emma. Here I'm using the crepe paper chipboard letters, getting started on my title, and then I realized, hey, I want to use some of that yellow from the back. Typically when I do this, I will cut out a big section of the back of that, and I think I just got so excited over the wreath, the circular pattern, that I totally forgot. So anyway, I went back, took it back apart, cut out some of that so that I could use some of that paper as a mat. Sometimes I get ahead of myself in the process because I get so excited with what I'm working on.
Let me give you a rundown here. I realized last night that during my creative frenzy and dealing with kids and dinner and cleanup and all that last night, that my camera was not recording during the embellishment part of the layout. So I'm just going to show you how I finished this up. First of all, I loved this chipboard piece from crepe paper, and I had stamped the little Ellie Studio I Heart You on it, not realizing, see those adorable little lines that are supposed to look like staples? Well, it actually makes it look like a P. So this looks like a phonetic urban dictionary spelling of P-H-E-R-T, which is like fart you, and it was driving me crazy. I tried to take a stays on to get it off, to no avail. So I finally, rather than having a complete meltdown, I just let it go. Okay, let it go. And then here's what I ended up doing. Embellished with some more crepe paper, enamel dots. I had backed this chipboard frame with the Amy Tangerine heart paper, and I love this green paper that I used. It's the Webster's Life is Good. I stamped the little I Heart You down here, and now looking back this morning with fresh eyes, I'm kind of glad that this has a lighter feel to it, which is really what I wanted for this layout. So I made lemonade out of that lemon for sure. And one other thing that I did, I love this little arrow, but it was yellow, and I felt like I needed to pull in a little bit of the pink. Sorry, I'm not sure what that was. Oh, my daughter's backpack. I just took out some acrylic paint and painted the tip of that so that I could pull in a little pink to that area. So here is my completed layout. You know, I obviously adapted this from a card project from Christina Werner to a layout. And anyway, I hope this has inspired you to A, watch YouTube videos, B, always remember that you can take a really cool idea from a small project and enlarge it. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and thanks so much for stopping by.